Hi, you guys. Welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and welcome to part 2 of our walk down memory lane. Oh, mercy. I've made some unusual things over the years. These are all fairly normal. We'll get to unique here in a minute. If I can find the pattern for some of these, I will share the pattern. If not, I'm sorry. So, a few weeks ago, I can't remember if I left it in the video or not, but I was talking about blocking, and I said you don't have to block everything. Sometimes not blocking is a design element, and I had mentioned this candle flame shawl or candle wick shawl that I had done. I can't remember if I shared that or not. I may have, that may have been in one of my decided not to stick it in there and put something else in there instead moments, but anyway, this is one of the projects that I still refuse to block it. And I can't remember if I shared this last time or not. But this was my first time doing an I-cord bind off. This was in my first, probably 2 years knitting. That's when I still had my original blog that not only is defunct, but is more or less completely deleted from the internet now. I couldn't even find anything on the Wayback Machine, which was kind of nice. But yeah, and this is using Woolies and chocolate from many, many, many moons ago. I bought this at the same time I bought the mushroom that I did that sweater in that I was telling you guys about. But yeah, love it. That's my like sit on the sofa, cozy, smushy, squishy. That's my squishy. So a couple of times in the last week, my love of Doctor Who has come up. Now, a couple years ago, I was working on, and I've shared this before on here actually. I was working on, I can't remember her. She changed her blog name. It used to be Two Hearts Crochet. I was working on her Harry Potter blanket. I have all the squares done. It's a baby size blanket. I just have not sewn it together and backed it. It's one of those I'm going to have to back with fleece. And that just sounds like too much work, so I haven't done it. But I took the scraps from this Harry Potter blanket and realized a lot of the colors in there are in the Doctor Who scarf. So, and it has stretched with time. It's been a couple of years since I finished this. It is now almost 12 feet long when I wear it. This is all Vanna's choice. It is ginormous. I mean, it goes down to my shins when I stand up without any stretching. It's huge. It is ginormous. But that is my Doctor Who scarf. I did make a Doctor Who blanket from the, at the time, Two Hearts Crochet. It was the first Graftian series she did. I did have to design 2 blocks for myself, I think. Maybe only one. I did a pocket watch block, but that's kind of hard to show you guys. It is massive, but I will include the picture here. So each block is a little over 12 by 12. It's huge. And it's heavy. Super duper heavy. Like I said in my show and tell video, it's still pretty early here. I started filming it around 8 o'clock. But yeah, that was one of my many works of love. I think I had left this comment on Gary over Urban Yarns. I left this as one of the hints that I've picked up over the years. But because of that scarf, I started being more proactive about weaving in as I went, because I made the mistake of doing the first third of it without weaving in. And it took me like 8 hours to weave in that first third. So every like 5 or 6 color changes, I would go in and start just finishing weaving in ends. Highly recommend for anything like that where you have 80 bajillion color changes and 950 million ends to weave in. Pick where you want to stop knitting for a second and just weave them in real fast. Just get it over with and do it in sections. That way you're not left with a project with 900 ends to weave in. Because let me tell you, that was rough. So next one, we have 2 of the same kind, well, it's the same crochet pattern, but different styles. Back on, it was either Nitty Gritty or Uncommon Threads, back when those were still on TV, there was a Fascinator top hat pattern. I finally found it. It took me forever to find it again once the shows went off the air because DIY didn't have them on their website anymore. But I finally found somebody on Ravelry who would link to the original pattern. I wanted a Halloween Fascinator so bad. So I made one. And this is, it's meant to be in the writing style. There is wire in the brim for these. And it's got the ploof at the back. You know, it's got the little mini veil. So it took me forever when I wore this. I wore this for a Halloween party one year. It took me forever to get this right and get this situated. But it was awesome. And then you have the proof in the back. So that was the first one I made. And I made this more than 7 years ago. Or maybe right at 7 years ago. No, I think it's 8 years ago. Oh yeah, it's got wire in the top too. I forgot about that. So there's a wire crocheted into the top edge, and then there's a wire crocheted into the bottom edge. And I just used a very thin floral wire, just enough to give it stability, and I could shape it a little bit around it. But yeah, so that's the first Fascinator I ever made. Now I have done a few other ones that are not knit and crochet, but this is probably one of my favorite ones because it turned out exactly how I wanted it. And I'm not gonna lie, getting the veil and poof right took me hours. If I were properly trying to style it, I could get it styled fairly quickly. Because the other way you can wear it is like way down. And you can pop the edge of the veil up. And then you can... There's a way to do it. And yeah. But I did it, you know, to the side. That was how I wore it. Anyway, love that. The next one I did about 5 years ago. And I'm not as happy with the veil, even though the veil perfectly works for the project. The scarf I used to do the veil has too much stiffness on the edge of it. You can tell these got squished a little bit recently, but... So if you are also a fan of Doctor Who, you will recognize the TARDIS here. There we go. And it's got a double ribbon band. You see what I mean? The edge has too much float. So I did do this one a little bit differently. So there's a little bit more volume and it kept it much looser around the face. But that's my my TARDIS Fascinator. You can wear it a little bit more further back, which I don't like. I prefer it a little. But yeah, I really like the way that turned out. This one has a much thicker wire in the top and in the brim. So you can do a lot more folding it and shaping it to get it right around your face. and get it right. I still have my bobby pin in the back. You can see all the ridiculous amount of stitch work that it took to get the ribbons to lay down and to get the buttons on, or yeah, buttons. We'll go with buttons. But yeah, so I mean, this one probably is a lot easier to wear. It's a lot easier to fix the veil on it. It doesn't take as much floofing. But I wish this was drapier and not so away from my face. But I am not skilled in millinery yards. All right, so that's the end of the nerdy projects I made. I wanted to share this with you guys because this one cracks me up. So I wanted a huge sofa blanket, and I had this huge thing about 10 years ago where I was using scraps. I showed you the flower blanket. Okay, that was my second project that year using leftovers or yarns I just wasn't going to use, yarns I was phasing out. Now this blanket has been to Hades and back. I'm just saying. But I wanted to do some kind of ripple stitch reminiscent of what my grandmother used to make everybody. But I wanted to knit it because I had just learned how to knit. I was very excited about it. So it's like an extra long twin blanket. I made it to go on the sofa so it could stretch up over my shoulders and up over Troy's shoulders when we're sitting on the sofa together. And I finished it like just in time for Valentine's Day. So this is all reds and pinks. But I wanted a progressive color change from shorter rows into slowly larger rows, thicker. And nobody else ever appreciated that. It actually is really kind of cool, depending on how many scraps you have, the way you can kind of pattern and phase things in and out for something like that. And really, maximize what you have a little bit of. There's one of these. Let's find the biggest row of it. This one is so weird. It is called Frosted. And it was by like Red Heart or something. It may have been a Karen Wintuck, but I'm pretty sure it's Red Heart. That's one of those weird yarns I've never seen anywhere else. And I don't know how to describe the halo other than like cheap plastic. It's so weird. It like really doesn't feel bad. It's very soft, but it's like a hot glue gun string kind of look to it in person. It's so weird. But I was really, really pleased with this. It really didn't take me that long because once you get into the feather and fan and ripple stitch patterns knitted, like you just kind of get into a rhythm with them. So really, I think it only took me a couple weeks to do this. And I'm not a big blanket knitter, even now. I don't do a whole lot of knit blankets. I find them more unwieldy than crocheting them. But I'm still really happy with, that was my foray into, I didn't want to do Fibonacci, but I wanted something similar where you had a progression wave moving through the project. Now these have kind of like multi-sentimental things. So I shared with you guys the blanket I made my grandmother, the grandmother who taught me how to crochet. And when I learned how to knit, she used to have her guest bed just like covered in stuffed animals. Like people would give her stuffed animals for everything. So when I finally learned how to knit, I found these super easy bears. They're knit completely flat in a big like scarf with 2 splits on the ends. And then you fold it in half and literally seam around the whole thing. There are a number of charities for like foster kids and social services that have these patterns. I don't know where I got this one from. Like, I even made her like little bloomers under her skirt. You can tell where like I didn't know how to weave in my ends and stuff. This is literally from like my first year knitting, I believe. But like I put a little bow on her ear. The pattern did not call for putting a skirt on there. I actually figured out how to pick up stitches and do that myself. And I crocheted her skirt on. I decided to make her, instead of doing it just in straight stockinette, I did his in moss stitch and hers with like this little rib. But these sat on her bed for many, many years. They've been well worn, well loved, played with by all the grandkids, little grandkids, great grandkids, great grandkids. That's who they are. They're not our grandkids, they're great grandkids. They're my cousin's kids. It's just amazing how, like, you growing up, like, you have moments where it's like, oh my goodness, is that really? Wow. I'm having a hard time. So Troy and I have been married for 16 years. I am having a really hard time with the kids that were born after we got married, like planning for high school graduation. Because it doesn't feel like it's been 16 years. They're driving. My nephew he was a little thing when I married Troy. Actually, he was born right after I married Troy. And he was this little thing. Infant. Tiny baby. Newborn. He's driving. Good news is they don't, my brother-in-law doesn't live that far from us, so I'm pretty sure I can pay him to come and feed the cats if we go out of town for a week. What high schooler doesn't want to earn some extra cash? But holy cats, like, has it really been that long? I just, mind blown. One of my other, it's so weird to call her my niece, but I guess technically that's a relationship. Because she's, once again, she's the same age as me, so it's kind of like, but her oldest daughter just turned 16. Because once again, baby, I remember you as a baby. Anyway, the last project I brought in here to share with you guys is a bunny rabbit. So once again, this is one of those projects I found on Uncommon Threads or Nitty Gritty. If I can find the pattern, I will share it with you. The one thing, and if I still had more of this yarn, I would remake this guy. Because nowhere in the pattern did it explain that you were going to have no stability here at the neck. And while he looks cute, you know, just kind of all splayed out and stuff, if I could get his head to sit upright, how cute would that be? And he's been kind of smushed up through the years too. I mean, this is another, I made him 12 years ago. But I remember being so just over the moon. So the yarn I used, there is I don't know how well the camera's picking up. So his paws and his little muzzle area and his ears are all different colors from his body. This is the floof yarn is a trendsetter yarn. And I only remember that because I have a red one that's identical. And when I was putting up the yarn wall, I came across the red one. The paws and the body, the tan tweed and the cream tweed were both Art Yarn brand. And the ear, I loved this yarn. So this is actually a chenille feeling but actually twisted. It's not a chenille made. It feels like chenille. Twisted Moda yarn from, I mean, probably almost 20 years ago. Love it, love it, love it. I've used it in Air Force Blue. I've used it in baby pink. There was a gorgeous pale yellow that I had that somebody actually bought off of me because they were in love with it. I wish somebody would bring the yarn back because it was that good. It was that soft. It was that snuggly. It used, it was nylon and acrylic, I believe. But this was the last little bit that I had, and I paired it with the tweed yarn and the fur yarn. I wish I had skipped the fur on the inner ears, and that was the first time I ever used safety eyes. There was a lot of firsts in this project. But I love how cute he is. I wish I had known what I was doing trying to build armatures and stuff. Because could you imagine if there was a full wire armature where you could, pose at least his arms and his neck? And I've tried so many different things. I actually slid a almost coat hanger sized piece of wire in there. I crimped the end and turned it on itself and was able to slip it through the stitches down the spine. And then when I got it into the head, I was able to get it in there. It was just malleable enough. I was able to kind of twist it down so it wouldn't stab up. And I tried to get that to work, and I could not get the length right to where it wouldn't poke out but still held the head up. If you did it as you went, that really wouldn't be that hard. So I had to take that out. Then I tried taking a stitch from like the back of his head and literally pinning it to the back. But you lose all the definition of the neckline. I think if you could just, and plus I understuffed this, significantly understuffed this, but yeah, I was learning. But I think he could be so cute if you get his little head to actually stick up. But when you put him down anywhere, and he looks silly if you tried to sit him upright. But see, if he had an armature in there, you could, But yeah, so those are the items that I wanted to share with you guys that I've made over the years. So now this time, the project span from 12, 13 years ago to 3 years ago. I think I finished the Doctor Who scarf right before I started my channel. Yeah. But that's a, nice cross section of some of the, I make some weird stuff just because. It's a lot of fun, random. Anyway, you guys, I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. I look forward to seeing you guys real soon. Love you guys.